welcome you to the Ask Jeff YouTube channel. Here is today's question. It says, as Jesus' death and resurrection aligned with the Passover and the Feast of First Fruits, will his return likewise align with one of the feasts? If so, which one? It's a very insightful question. In fact, if you look at a Jewish calendar, there were 7 what we might call major feasts. And what we know is the life and ministry of Jesus Christ lined up perfectly with him. As alluded to in the question, his death and resurrection with what we know as Passover and the first fruits. And I would say scripturally and even historically, I think we can defend that what we know as his incarnation, his birth, the Christmas story, probably lined up with the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, I know we celebrated on December 25th, but that was just a way hundreds of years ago of us, quote, Christianizing a pagan holiday. If you look at the biblical record and the fact that he was dwelling among us and the tabernacle is to dwell with us, most likely his birth lined up with the Feast of Tabernacles. So the question becomes, what about his return? Now, I want to make a designation between, or shall we say the difference between the physical return of Jesus Christ and what we often refer to as his, quote, rapture of his body or the church. Now, I'm not here to discuss the time frame and the differences of the pre and the mid and the post and all those ideas. We're just talking about the physical return of Jesus Christ in Revelation chapter 19 with whatever you believe about that rapture concept. Those of us who have been caught up with him are returning with him. I do believe there is biblical evidence that Jesus Christ will physically return with the army of his saints lined up with a Jewish feast, and I would say most likely that would be what we know as Pentecost for multiple reasons. Number one, Pentecost is the celebration where he descended to his people in the form of the Holy Spirit. It would make sense at the time that he descends at his second coming would line up. But also in Acts chapter 1, the 2 angelic hosts, when Jesus Christ ascended, told the disciples, in the manner in which he ascended, he will likewise return. I know we like to focus on going up through the clouds, coming back through the clouds, but you are 7 days outside of what we know as the Feast of Pentecost. So when you begin to look at the Jewish feast, there is a lot of alignment with the incarnation, the death, and the resurrection. It does make biblical sense that what we know as the physical return of Jesus Christ would line up with one of the feast as well. Now, until then, you and I are waiting, according to Titus chapter 2, for his appearing and calling us home. And so I wouldn't get caught up with all the Jewish feast of, oh, well, I guess we missed the rapture this year, or I guess we got to wait till another feast, or maybe it's a different one. The rapture concept is unique to the Church of Jesus Christ, which according to Colossians 1, Ephesians 5, and other places is called a mystery. The physical return, I do believe, can be put in the same parameters as the incarnation, the death, and the resurrection, which most likely will line up with one of the feasts. And I think there's evidence that it'll be Pentecost. Thank you so much for your question. If you have a question, submit it to AskJeff.net, and maybe your question will be tomorrow's. Thanks for being a part of today's daily question. Now, we answer a question each and every day. Please feel free to submit a new question at AskJeff.net. We may not have gotten to yours today, but we eventually will continue to be a part of this. Subscribe so you don't miss out on a question every day.